Hey everyone, this is Mukesh Utwani once again from learn-innovation.com. Today in this video, we are going to talk about exception handling in Python. As the name says, exception handling. So now we will talk about how do we handle the exceptions. But the question comes, what exactly is exception? So for this, let me show you the official documentation by Python. So as you can see, this document is divided into two sections. One is error and exception. So one is if you talk about syntax error, which is also known as parsing error, and this thing we have seen multiple times, right? Because in Python we need to take care especially of the indentation, right? The moment you make any syntax related issue or some syntax mistakes, you will be getting syntax error, and you can see syntax error. Second thing is exception. Okay, now if you just read one statement, that will make everything clear, that any error which is detected during execution or runtime is called exceptions. Now how do we handle the exceptions? That we will see now. So syntax error I will show you, which is quite obvious. Second thing will be exception. So when everything works fine, when your syntax is correct, but if your program is failing at runtime, we will be calling them as exceptions. Okay, so do not get confused with these names. Okay, you can see this is says error, this is says error, this is says error, but these are actually exceptions. Okay, I will show you the exception hierarchy. All these exceptions, if I show you now, we will discuss now this in detail. All these errors which we will be getting in runtime is part of exception class, and this exception class is a subclass, or it is inheriting another class called base exception. So don't worry and do not get confused with the names. Any error at runtime will be called as exception. Fine. So let me show you both. One is syntax error, then we'll talk about exceptions. So let me switch back to the PyCharm. Now how do we handle the exception? So we will be using try, and we will be using except. We will also use finally. So these are reserved keywords, and when we start writing, this will be block of code. So let me show you the syntax error first. That is very easy. So the moment I say while, after that while I need to give some condition, right? So let me give this condition called true, and the moment I put colon, I need to give some condition. But what if I miss this colon? If I directly say some print here, some dummy statement I will be giving, the moment I run this, and you will get a syntax error, which is quite expected, right? And it says invalid syntax, which is very easy to handle and which is very easy to catch as well. But the problem comes with runtime. Okay, the moment you run your program, your syntax is correct, your logic is correct, but still you will get some exceptions. Okay, so how do we handle? Let's see one by one. So to demonstrate this part, I'm just going to use a file. Now we haven't seen how to open a file, how to close a file, how to read a file, how to read the file. We'll see this in detail in separate video. For the time being, I'm going to use one open function. So this function will simply open up a file, and once this file is open, you can simply do the read operation, write operation. So the moment you call this open function, we need to provide the file which you want to read. So let's say let me create one simple text file. I will give this file name is demo1.txt. So you can see I got this file. Now if I simply get the path, okay, let me just open this in Explorer. Just to make your program easier, I am just going to get the path. I will just press shift from my keyboard. I will copy as path, and I will just give the path here in double quotes. Okay, so in double quotes, the moment we give path, now we need to use either 1 forward slash or 2 backward slash. So I will just use 2 backward slash. Just give me a second, and your file is open now. So the moment you put mouse over, or if you open this particular function, what it says, it will ask you first file, then it will also ask you give me in which mode you want to open. Okay, so let me just open this in a read mode. So what I will do, I will simply give a comma, okay, and in double quotes I will just say R. R means I just want to open this in a read mode. So this is going to return a file. So let me store this into a variable called, let's say, content. Okay, now let's say I want to just read the content. So I will simply say print, and now the moment I say content, I have multiple options. Now I can read, you can see, and I can also write. While writing, I need to provide the content as well, and I can close the files. For the time being, I just want to read this file, so I will say read, and simply I will run, and you can see we got Python is my first language. Make sense? Now what, due to some XYZ reason, I just give some wrong file. Let's say I'm giving demo2.txt and I'm trying to open or read this file which does not exist, and you can see I got one error called file not found error. And if you see, it says no such file or directory present, and it will also give you exactly at which line you're getting. So we are getting this error at line number 1. Now I want to handle this. Okay, I want to handle this error, and I want to give a beautiful message or some message which actually explain what is happening or what went wrong here. So what I can do now, I can simply put this into a try block. I will say try colon, and I will simply keep these two statements within this try, and I will just keep except, and you can see I got a specific file not found error. Okay, so even if you don't write, it will still handle. Just say except colon, and here you can say something went wrong. Okay, I'm just writing some dummy statement again, and after this I will simply say have a nice day. It means if something, okay, if I just give demo1.txt, it should run, which is running fine, right? It says Python is my first language, then it says have a nice day. This time if I give some wrong file which does not even exist, and we have handled this with except, right? It simply comes to this block and it says something went wrong. You can see it is not throwing any error, and it is working as expected. So let's say if I have some more statement after this, I will say this is last statement. Again, just want to show you that once your program is done, okay, it is going to execute this statement, because this is not in a try, this is not an except. So if something goes wrong, it will come here and it will still run this program, or it will continue with the set of statement. Correct? Now this is one exception. What if I try to do one more part? I will try to open this in a write mode. Okay, so you can see the moment I put, okay, or let me do reverse, I will still try to open this in a read mode, which is a valid file in this case, okay, demo1.txt, but I will just try to write something. This is how we write. I will say this is Mukesh. Now you can see what I'm doing. I'm opening in a read mode, but I'm trying to write something. So definitely it will throw some exception. So the moment you run, you can again say, see here it says something went wrong. But this time I'm not able to understand what went wrong, right? So now we need to have the knowledge of the specific exceptions which is available in Python, right? So I cannot directly say except and handle everything, because I will not get some meaningful information from this. So now we need to use the exact class name, or at least the base exceptions. So in this case, what I will do, after except, I will be giving the exception, okay, which is coming. So what exception we were getting file not found error first, right? So now you just mention it here, and you can just also use our keyword called s, and you just give a variable which is nothing but the object here. So I will just say err. So whatever exception we will be getting, all the information will be stored under err. Okay, so if you just want to print, you just mention here err. So as we know, when we get file not found error, when this file does not exist, right? So let me just change this program and let me make it to read again. Okay, write part I will show you. Just make it read once again. Now demo1.txt, it exists. We are opening a read mode, we are reading it, and now let's simply run. It says Python is my first language, which is coming from text file, and as usual this is our print statement. Now what if I change this? This time I will say demo2.txt. Let's run, and you can see something went wrong. This is exactly what we have given in the print statement. Now this is what the error is having. It says error number 2, no such file and directory exists, right? So this is how you can handle the exceptions in Python. Now if I take right examples, you might get confused because we haven't seen till now how to read the files, how to write the files, how to close the files. So let me take the again basic examples of division by 0, giving the wrong input, because everybody can relate it, right? But this is a very basic example of try and except block. So in the next example, I will take multiple except. We will also talk about finally. We will also talk about else. So I will just make it exception handling demo 2, and let me just delete everything. So what I will do, I will take few inputs from the user, and based on the inputs we will do some calculation and we will provide the output. So let's say I'm just taking one number from the user, and I will just say input, and I will say please enter number 1. Then I will just say number 2. This time I will say please enter number 2, and finally I will say result equal to num1, okay, and num2. Let's do division. So it will divide number 1 by number 2, we'll get the output, and we will simply print. Okay, now one thing which you have to notice here, guys, that when we say input, it will give me a string, right? So num1 will be string, num2 will be string, and it will say divide string by string. Let's see, the moment I run this, if I say 90 and 89, and you can see it says type error. Why? Because this division operator does not work with string and string, so I cannot divide one string with another string. So this is one of the exception. Okay, just remember, type error. So what I will do, first of all, I will just surround this into a try, right? Because now we know that if something goes wrong, this particular statement is going to throw exception, which is type error. So I will just keep this in a try. I will just say try colon, and I will just keep these 3 statements within try. So just surround this piece of code and say tab. And when it comes to, let's also have print. Now I will keep except colon, and I will say please provide only digits. Okay, so we got this type error, right? So I will just say except type error and SERR. So whatever we will get inside ERR, I will print that as well. So this time when I run, you will see it will handle this very gracefully. I will say 89 and 78. Now it says please provide only digits. Now you must be wondering that I'm giving the proper input, right? But why still giving that please provide only digit? Because this input will return me everything as a string. So now it is our responsibility that we will be converting this into integer number. Yes, so let me handle this. I will just convert this number 1 and number 2 as an integer, and this time let me give this here that result is, and I will just put comma, and this time we will be getting number 1, let's say 90, number 2 is let's say 9, and we got result. Fine, let's use some weird input and let's see how it behaves. So when I say run, number 1 is let's say 80, number 2 is 8. Okay, we have already given the valid input. This time I will say 0. So you can see we got another exception called 0 division error. So what it says, you cannot divide any number by 0, and which is true. So the moment it is throwing any exception, it is coming to except block, and here it is expecting type error. But what this code is throwing, 0 division error. So it is not able to handle, and it is again throwing, and it is throwing exception and is terminating our program. Can we have multiple except? Yes, we can have. In this case, I will just give this 0 division error, and again I will store this into another variable called err, and again I will say please do not enter 0, some meaningful message, and whatever information we will be getting in ERR, I will simply just mention here. Let's run it. Number 1 90, number 2 0, and you can see it says please do not enter 0. So if user is giving any other input, it should be able to handle it. So in my case, let's say if I give number 1 as Mukesh, okay, so here itself it failed, and it is expected. The reason is we got input, right? This input is nothing but a string. What I was doing, I was converting into integer. Now what is happening? The moment I give input as Mukesh, it is trying to convert into integer, which is not possible. So it is failing here, and it says, if you see this part, right, line number 2, that value error, invalid literal for integer. So what we can do, we can again handle this. We can say a value error, because this is value error, right? And I will say colon, please provide valid entries, something like that. So just run this time, and if you just give anything, let's say this digit or some string, it is going to say please provide valid entry. The moment it will throw any exception, it will start searching, do I have any exception block or except block which can handle value error? So it came here, it is not matching, it came here, it is not matching, finally it matched here, it says value error, and it says please provide valid entry. Okay, so this is how you can keep one try with multiple except. And at last, okay, let's say we have any other exception as well which is not falling into this category. Can we still handle them? Yes, you can just handle them with exception, as I told you. Okay, let me just explain you this diagram. So let's do one thing. First of all, I will show you type error. Just go here and search for type error, and you can see this type error is a separate class which is a child class of exception, or this class inherit another class called exception, and the base class of exception is base exception. Second, zero division error, copy and search here, and you can see zero division error is again inheriting another class called arithmetic error. Arithmetic error is inheriting another class called exception, and exception is again base exception. Finally, value error, just search value error as well. This value error is a separate class in Python, and you don't need to remember this hierarchy, but yeah, make sure that exception and base exceptions are the main classes. So these are the subclasses that we are using. So exception class will be able to handle almost everything. Okay, so in case something goes wrong, we will finally handle with exception class, and here we will simply say something went wrong. Now we don't have this condition right now, but yeah, in case due to some XYZ reason, if these except are not able to handle, finally this except block will be able to handle everything. Yes, I hope it is clear now. Let me show you one more example, and just give me a few more minutes and everything will be clear. Now I want to also introduce one more keyword called finally. Okay, so finally is a block which will execute no matter whether you get exception or not. Okay, so try is a keyword, but this is a try block. Except is also a keyword, but this is except block. In the same way, we also have finally, and in the finally, whatever statement you will write, it will execute anyways whether you get exception or not. Okay, so I will say have a nice day. So just right click and run. Let's provide some valid entry 90 and 9. You got result 10.0 and have a nice day. This is from finally. Let me give some wrong output or input. Let's say 90. This time I will say UI, some bad entry. it says please provide valid entry, have a nice day. Last, I'll give 89 divided by 0. It says please do not enter 0 and have a nice day. So you can see our program is able to handle all the exceptions very gracefully. We're getting proper messages, and finally is also executing. Now in finally, right now we are just keeping print statement, but in real time, once we move ahead, we will be keeping some statement or some piece of code that we have to execute always. Okay, let's say you are connecting with a database, you want to read some entries and you want to close the connection. So in case if you get any exception, okay, while reading or while writing, your database connection should be closed. Or when you are, let's say, reading a file, making a connection to the server, anything, when you're dealing with connection, you need to close the connection. That piece of code you can keep inside finally block. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now we don't use this much, but yes, this is also one of the scenario. You can also have else with try except. Okay, so what does it mean? I'm just going to add one more else. Okay, just say else, and here I will say print, and I will say all went right, some statement. Now what is the else will do here? Okay, let me show you through output. So again, I will run this program. I will say 99. So you can see it is giving me the result which is expected, but it is also giving me all went right, and finally this is from finally. So now else keyword which you're adding, so this is actually else block now. So else will only execute when there is no exception. Except will execute when there is an exception, and finally will always run whether there's exception or not. So just keep this point in mind. Okay, generally we don't mix else with finally, but yeah, I'm giving you this example so that in case if you are attending some interviews and if you get this question, make sure you answer. Else will only run when there is no exception. Except block will run when there is exception. Finally will always run whether there is exception or not. So in case if you want to just cross check, let me give some wrong input and you will see the output 90, and I will give 0. You can see this time all went right is not appeared because this time we got the exception. Yeah, I hope it is clear. Don't worry, once you move ahead, once you start working with Selenium API performance, you will be getting a lot of exceptions and we will be able to handle it. But before I end this session, I just want to show you two different things. Okay, so the first thing which I want to show you, the code. The moment you open this type error, okay, so how do you open? Just press Ctrl from the keyboard, put mouse over, and you can see type error is a class which is inheriting exception. Okay, if you just open this exception, exception is a class which is inheriting base exception. If you open this base exception, it's a separate class which actually inheriting object class. Yes, so you can see the hierarchy, right? Whatever diagram I showed you, this is exactly in the same way. If you want to just see this hierarchy through code, just open that exception and you will be able to see how they are inheriting each other. Okay, not only this, let's say you want to open the first program which is demo 1, just open this file not found and you can see it is inheriting a class called OS error. OS error is equal to Windows error here, and if you open Windows error, it is also inheriting exception, and as usual exception is inheriting base exception, and finally this is object. Yeah, it's very interesting. It is just you should know how internally they're working, then only you can customize them whenever you want. Now often when we talk about exception handling, you will see a keyword called raise. Okay, so this raise keyword is very important when you want to raise some exception based on some conditions. We will be seeing this with proper usage once we move ahead. For the time being, I will show you one basic program and I will be doing some condition. If this condition is not valid, I will throw some exception. So I will just accept a number, let's say number 1, and I will be taking input, and I will say please enter number. Now I will write a small if condition, okay, and I will say if number 1 is equal to 0, then raise one exception. Okay, so what is exception? It's totally up to you which exception you want to raise. As of now, I will throw some exception. Okay, I will just give assertion error, that's all. It says please enter num1. This time if I just give 9, it is not doing anything because it is not satisfying this condition. So let me do one thing. Let me just print number is num1. So I will just give a space here, run, please enter number 1. This time I will say 0, and you can see it is throwing assertion error. So whatever exception you will give, it will throw that particular exception, depends on some condition, and if this condition is not true, it will continue as it is. So using raise, you can raise a specific exception, depends on the condition. I hope it is clear to all of you. So let me just give you a quick recap what we did. We discussed about syntax error, then we started with exceptions. Okay, so we discussed about error at runtime is nothing but exceptions. We have seen try with one except, try with multiple except. We have seen try except finally, try except else, and finally we also discussed the differences. We also discussed about the raise. Don't worry, as I said earlier, we will be getting this exception multiple times, so we will be getting a lot of exception when we deal with Selenium or when you work with performance or anything. So guys, in case if you're new to this channel, then please make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, share this video, and in case if you have any other question, let me know in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.